They visited their son's grave every single day, and every single day, someone had already been there before them, a fresh red rose. No note, no name, no explanation. At first, they thought it was kindness, then they realized it was a message, and when they finally discovered who was leaving it, it shattered everything they thought they knew about their family. Mary and Peter had been living in a fog of grief ever since their son Michael had died in a tragic accident. He had been only 18, full of life, laughter, and dreams for the future, and in a single heartbeat, he was gone. Their home had become quiet, almost unbearably silent, the empty spaces echoing with memories of his laughter, his voice, his presence. Every day, they made the pilgrimage to his grave, carrying little reminders of him, flowers, handwritten notes, small trinkets that had once belonged to him. These visits were painful, yet they became a lifeline, a fragile thread connecting them to their son, a way to keep a part of him alive in a world that had suddenly lost all color. About a month after Michael's passing, something unusual began to happen. Each time they arrived at the cemetery, a single red rose rested on his grave. At first they assumed it might be a kind stranger, someone touched by their story or moved by compassion. But as days passed, the roses continued to appear without fail, day after day, sometimes in the morning dew, sometimes dusted by frost. Never a note, never a sign, just a solitary red rose. Peter and Mary felt a mix of awe and unease. Someone was watching, someone was caring, but who could it be? The mystery gnawed at them, an unspoken question that grew heavier with each visit. Peter, unable to contain his curiosity, decided to take matters into his own hands. One quiet evening he bought a small security camera, something discreet but capable of capturing clear footage in the dim cemetery light. Late at night, when the world was asleep and the streets were empty, he drove alone to the cemetery. The moon cast pale silver shadows over the gravestones, the air cool and still, carrying with it the faint scent of flowers and damp earth. He carefully positioned the camera so that Michael's grave would be fully visible, then hid it among the surrounding bushes. Every detail mattered: the angle, the lighting, the distance. He wanted to make sure he wouldn't miss anything. Then, heart-pounding, he returned home, each step heavy with anticipation. For 2 long weeks, Peter and Mary continued their routine visits, pretending nothing had changed, though Peter could barely concentrate. Every glance toward Michael's grave was filled with tension, every sound in the cemetery making him flinch. Mary noticed his distracted glances, his restless energy, but she didn't ask. She understood too well the mix of grief and hope coursing through him. Then, one morning, the call came from the cemetery supervisor. Someone had noticed the camera, but instead of creating trouble, the supervisor had secretly kept the footage for them, understanding how much they needed answers. Peter and Mary drove to the cemetery in a haze of nerves and anticipation, unsure of what awaited them. Back at home, the USB stick containing the footage sat on the kitchen table. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. The weight of the decision pressed down on them. What if the footage revealed something shocking? What if it changed everything? But the curiosity was too strong. Peter finally reached for the laptop, and Mary sat beside him, hands trembling, bracing herself. As the screen flickered to life, their hearts raced. The first few minutes were uneventful, just the quiet cemetery, the grass swaying lightly in the breeze, the headstone standing silently under the pale light. And then, a shadow appeared at the edge of the frame. A figure dressed entirely in black slowly approached Michael's grave, carrying a single red rose. Their movements were careful, deliberate, almost reverent. The figure's face was hidden beneath oversized sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat, but something about the way they moved seemed familiar. Peter and Mary leaned closer, holding their breath. The figure gently placed the rose on the grave and lingered for a moment, hands brushing over the stone, as if feeling Michael's presence. Then, silently, the figure turned and walked away, leaving Peter and Mary stunned and speechless. Mary's heart pounded. There was something she recognized, though she couldn't immediately place it. A feeling of familiarity, a spark of memory from long ago, and then it hit them both with sudden clarity. It wasn't just someone they had seen, it was someone they knew, someone from their past. Over 10 years had passed since they last saw her. How could she be here now, quietly leaving roses at Michael's grave without saying a word? The questions swirled. Why now? Why like this? Why hadn't she reached out? They had no way to contact her. No phone number, no address, no email. The only choice was to wait at the cemetery, hoping she would return. Early the next morning, hearts racing, Peter and Mary arrived, cautious, anxious. The air was crisp, the smell of earth and flowers mixing with the faint chill of dawn. The cemetery supervisor was already there, smiling gently. She had noticed the familiar car pull into the lot, the same one they had seen in the footage, and now she stood silently, watching with them. Slowly, the woman stepped out. Michael's parents gasped, and their breath caught in their throats. It was her, Noah, their daughter, who had run away from home as a teenager. Time had passed, but the recognition was instant. For a few moments, no one moved. The air felt thick, heavy with the weight of years lost, grief, and words that had never been spoken. Mary's tears began to fall, and she called Noah's name, voice trembling with emotion. Peter opened his arms, his face softening, and Noah stepped forward hesitantly. They embraced, holding each other tightly, as if making up for a decade of absence in a single moment. The reunion was silent, yet the silence was alive with everything words could not capture: love, regret, sorrow, relief, and the overwhelming intensity of finally being together again. The cemetery supervisor, hidden behind a tree, watched with a mix of awe and guilt. She had assumed the woman leaving roses was a stranger or an old family friend, but she had never imagined she could be family. A daughter returning after so many years. Noah finally spoke, her voice soft but steady, explaining that she had left home as a teenager, seeking a new life far away. She had wanted to find herself, to escape, to experience the world, and the years had simply slipped by. When she heard of Michael's passing, her heart had shattered. She had come to the cemetery quietly, leaving roses, trying to honor her brother, trying to connect with her parents from a distance, unsure if they would even want to see her again. Peter and Mary listened, tears streaming down their faces, realizing the depth of what had been happening quietly all along. Finally, they were face to face, together, as a family. The years of pain and uncertainty melted into one overwhelming moment of connection. Mary whispered that they had missed her, that they had always hoped she was safe and happy. Peter echoed her, promising that nothing would ever come between them again. Noah smiled through tears, feeling the weight she had carried for years begin to lift. The mysterious roses, once a source of anxiety and wonder, had led to this a reunion beyond anything they could have imagined. From that day forward, they vowed to cherish every moment, to be present, to move forward together as a family, and to honor Michael's memory in every step they took. The roses, once a puzzle, had become a symbol of love, resilience, and the enduring bonds of family. Even through tragedy, even after years of separation, love had found a way back. And as they stood together by Michael's grave, holding each other tightly, they knew that nothing would ever tear them apart again. Life had given them a cruel loss, but it had also given them a second chance. They had learned that love, patience, and hope could survive even the darkest moments, and that sometimes, the most mysterious gestures carry the deepest meanings. The red roses were no longer a mystery, they were a promise, a reminder, and a connection that would never fade. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another heartfelt story like this.